Hello, everyone. Welcome to another segment of The Left Wing. I am Desmond Price, host of the Independent Thought Podcast. I'm joined by my co-hosts, John Cooper, host of Counterpoint Politics, and Dr. Erica, host of Cocktails and Capitalism. And we are talking today about what I'm assuming is the biggest news of the week, is Florida Governor Ron DeSantis officially entering the presidential race. He announced his candidacy yesterday on a Twitter Spaces event, which was kind of marred by technical glitches. It didn't actually start for 25 minutes. I sat through that and listened to actually a full hour of that, to which I have to, tell you right now that that was 55 minutes too much. 0 out of 10 stars. And again, having a presidential announcement on a place like Twitter Space is a terrible idea, trying to knock off Clubhouse. But anyway, so Ron DeSantis now enters a crowded primary field on the Republican side, along with others such as former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley, former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson, Vivek Ramaswamy, Senator from South Carolina Tim Scott, and they are all vying to challenge Donald Trump for the GOP nomination in 2024. And Trump does see DeSantis as his number one challenger. He's been attacking him for months now, and that's probably because DeSantis has a number of billionaires that are backing his campaign, most notably being Rupert Murdoch, who has had DeSantis on Fox News 113 times in the last 4 months, including last night after he did his Twitter Spaces event. He then came on and did another interview on Fox News. So it's open secret, basically. Rupert Murdoch wants DeSantis to be the leader of the Republican Party going into 2024, and he is fully behind his candidacy. To which now, DeSantis' case against Trump is pretty simple. He's going to say that I get things done and Trump is all talk. He mentioned that in his address last night. He's running on his, fact that he got his Don't Say Gay bill done, his Stop Woke Act bending gender affirming care, a 6-week abortion ban, an anti-riot law, an election securities office that he's created, which that's a fun topic for later, and Stop Social Media Censorship Act, to which he constantly is saying that Florida is where woke goes to die. So my question for my panel here: is Ron DeSantis actually worse for the country than Donald Trump? Because I think that's the question that people really want to know. For those who, unlike us, who are chronically online, we've already had this debate, but maybe somebody else who's just coming to this casually doesn't really know the differences. What are your thoughts on this? John, Erica, who is worse, Donald Trump, Ron DeSantis?
I'll put it this way. I'm far less scared of a nuclear apocalypse under Ron DeSantis. Other than that, he's much worse. I think if you ever heard the John Mulaney bit of a horse in the hospital, he compared Trump's presidency to a horse being loose in the hospital. Okay. And nobody knows what the horse is going to do, but it's in the hospital. And we're all just we're listening to news updates, blah, 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 blah. And it's okay, that's bad. But DeSantis is if Satan was running the hospital and knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
That's the difference here, is that, Trump is kind of he's a loose cannon. He's generally bad, but I don't think he actually knows what he's he doesn't have a actual campaign of hellfire and brimstone to push, whereas DeSantis does. And that's the scary thing, is what if Trump had the populism support of the Republican Party and also had a well-oiled political machine where his not concession speech wasn't made from the Four Seasons landscaping company, that. That's what we're talking about here: a politically competent Trump, and that's scary.
You said exactly the things that I wanted to say. He is competent in ways that Trump is not. I think. I heard at one point someone from some Latin American country talking about how Trump is better than Biden because Trump won't actually get things done. All of the bad agenda items that he has, it's unlikely that he'll be able to pull them off. But if you have someone who's a more well-oiled political machine, who's younger, who, I don't know, the Twitter announcement does not give me a lot of hope about his appeal to the younger audience. He can't even get that right. So Yeah, I don't know. It's clearly going to, I mean, look at his agenda items that he's already brought up, and look at the causes that he is furthering, and the kinds of things that he's censoring. The attacking of trans folks. The it's it is going to be so dark if our country is run by a competent fascist versus an incompetent fascist. That is the scenario that we all feared when Trump was, I mean, a lot of folks feared when Trump was on stage, but you know he was running the country, but people were thinking, who is going to fill his place in the future? What kind of real fascist who can really get things done is going to take up the mantle here, and carry that horrible torch? And DeSantis has been the lead person for that role, this whole time. I mean, I've been focusing largely on him as, I mean, I think maybe whatever Tucker could be a dangerous person if he was running.
Oh, let's not speak that into existence.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Let's really not go that route.
Yeah.
I am legitimately just I cannot get over the situation that we find ourselves in, because I'm now in a spot where I feel as though, do I actually have to defend Donald Trump over the next year? Do I have to be sitting here talking about how Donald Trump is better than someone? I cannot believe the universe we're living in right now, because spending so much time throughout his whole presidency talking about how he was the worst we'd ever seen, and that we had to mobilize this massive unit against him in 2020 to get him out of office, and it was worth voting for someone like Joe Biden, someone who I personally didn't want as the leader of the Democratic Party, but we had to vote for him because we had to get Trump out because he's an existential threat. And now, 2 years later, we're being asked to be hey, by the way, now you have to basically get on Trump's side because there's actually somebody worse than him behind him. That is blowing my mind. I cannot believe that we are actually subjected to this. And also, strangely enough, I will say that I want to push back against the narrative a little bit. I don't think Trump is completely incompetent the way that people project him out to be. One of the first episodes I did on Independent Thought was I wanted to cover Joe Biden and Donald Trump. This was back in 2020. To do so, I spent a few weeks watching multiple Trump rallies. It was fun. I watched a lot of Trump rallies, and one of the things I took away from that is that Donald Trump is actually incredibly calculated. You would think that he's not, but a lot of those things that he says in those rallies, I mean, those are all scripted. Those were written out. Those you might think they're off the cuff. They're really not. That's actually the things that he was planning to say. So it feels as though he actually was truly manipulating the Republican Party in ways that, I think people didn't fully give him credit for. And with that being said, under him, it actually, I think, would not be as bad as it would be under a DeSantis. I mean, strangely enough, Trump has been consistent with not wanting to cut Social Security, not wanting to cut Medicare. He did do some gun control, strangely enough. I'm getting sick defending him right now.
Yeah.
Wow. He did actually pass a farm bill that legalized hemp, which is actually great. So God, this is making me sick. No, I'm sorry, everyone. This is wild. Are we actually in this reality? John, help me here.
I mean, the thing is, okay, so here's the thing. We have a very interesting, if we forget about people's lives being at stake, this is fantastic political theater, because what we have is we have Donald Trump, who will almost certainly, his kryptonite's Joe Biden. He's already lost to him pretty badly. I think that Joe Biden's only chance at winning re-election, I've said this before DeSantis entered or whatever, is that Trump wins the Republican nomination, because he's the only person who people can look at and go, that track record I don't like either, but DeSantis, I think, is positioned fantastically to destroy Joe Biden. I think if DeSantis wins the Republican nomination, it's over for Joe Biden, and we get 4 to 8 years of DeSantis, and that's bad. But also, I think Donald Trump is uniquely positioned to bully the crap out of DeSantis and it's going to be hard for DeSantis to beat Donald Trump because DeSantis' entire persona is anti-woke, anti-this, and I can actually govern. And Donald Trump is also all of those things. And he's like, I actually did all of these things. I have experience being president, and all of you Republicans were like, we love me. So like he doesn't actually effectively defeat Donald Trump as easily as he defeats Joe Biden. So I think us on the left should just pray to God that Donald Trump wins the Republican nomination, and or Joe Biden has a health issue and drops out of the race. Those are the two things that I'm hoping for. But I genuinely think if DeSantis can overcome Trump, I think Biden is a much easier opponent for him.
Yeah. But he has like the charisma of a wet turd,
Yes.
He's like just really like have you heard him speak much? Like, God, it is so fucking boring. Like I just, oh God, he's droning on again. And I hadn't heard
better
him
than Mitt Romney.
Yeah, I guess
that's true.
so. But
actually, that's a strong point, though, John, is that I think Mitt Romney was able to win the Republican Party. And
yeah,
I think the thing that I'm most worried about is the Rupert Murdoch angle here, because time and time again, and maybe this will change this cycle, but it hasn't changed recently, is that when you look at the breakdown of voters in this country who are 45 and under versus 45 and older, the eligible voters are about equal. But the 45 and older crowd doubles up the 45 and younger crowd as far as people who actually turn out to vote. Now, who has the eyes of the 45 and older crowd? Fox News. And Rupert Murdoch has now positioned himself as being all DeSantis, like 113 times in 4 months. Like that's damn near every day. That's basically every day. So you're actually, in my mind, I'm thinking back to the 2016 campaign where CNN, MSNBC, like they went so hard on their Hillary Clinton coverage, right? And this is basically what cable news does. Once they have their person, they go all in. And I think that has a really strong effect on the older voting population who, if we're being fair, they vote at higher rates than younger people do. So I'm legitimately worried about Fox's ability to more or less change the Republican narrative around Ron DeSantis and make him more popular than Donald Trump, because I think a lot of Donald Trump's success came from the media being in love with him, and now they're actively going against him.
It's going to be really interesting to see how the cards, reveal themselves as to who's backing who. I do think that the Republican media apparatus is going to back DeSantis because he's great for them. He's controllable, unlike Trump, like we just mentioned before. He's much more controllable. He's much less of a wild card and does all of the same anti-woke theater politics. Yeah, it works for them. And I just think that I just hope DeSantis is a bad enough candidate that, and also I don't think Florida actually helps him. Like I think that the average view of America, even among conservatives, is Florida bad. Like we don't want Florida to be our country. And I know that like a lot of conservatives are going to disagree with me on that, but I think that the average, Ohio Republican looks at Florida and goes, "Oh, well, I don't want that." I don't want Biden, but I don't want that. I'm going to go with Trump, and that I think that that's going to be the narrative. But we're gonna see. It's going to be a wild, fun ride, isn't it, guys?
You don't want to make America Florida?
Make America Florida is the dumbest slogan.
It's so fucking bad. It's amazing. I did want to kind of just like talk a little bit more about the fact that Elon Musk is platforming DeSantis, that he is basically unofficially endorsing DeSantis. So you have this allegiance forming between this like tech oligarch and this budding fascist politician. It's a very bizarre relationship, and I think we like need to keep our eyes on what Elon is doing to prop up fascists, basically, like how he is using his platform to welcome back all of the MAGA folks, to welcome back all the racist folks, and then also now give this platform to DeSantis, who has done so many horrific things already, as you know, in politics, he's just already been such a disaster. So I don't know. It just seems very weird that he would do this. And then not only that, but like he's trying to capitalize on DeSantis's run for office by using that as a way to drum up support for this new feature on Twitter, which is a bizarre thing to do. And it's funny that it was like, half an hour of it just glitching out and failing when they were trying to do this really important announcement. But his explanation for why it's glitching out and failing, Elon says, oh, it's because there's way too many people that want to use this. Way too many people are trying. And that is just like he's still, even in his explanation for why this announcement failed, he is trying to sell his fucking product. He is trying to sell Twitter Spaces, and trying to just inflate his value and his company's value. So it is a sick, twisted, weird relationship that's forming, and it definitely reveals some of the relationship between capital and these more fascistic leaning politicians. We're going to see more and more of that in the future. That's only going to become more of a problem. So,
in a way, it's kind of makes our jobs easier when Elon does what he does, because I think everyone on some level understands that the billionaires of the world are, like directly intertwined with political candidates. Mm-hmm. But when Elon is just so openly brazen about it, it's just less work that we have to do trying to uncover who these people are who are backing these candidates. Just like, oh, Elon's just out in the open about it. Oh, all right, well, less work I got to do digging it up. But truthfully, yeah, I mean, the Twitter Spaces thing was a phenomenal disaster. I don't personally understand what the appeal of it is. Just to have this all audio platform, no video, just a terrible way to roll out a presidential campaign. And then also the fact that, he's trying to like say that, like, oh yeah, well, there's just so many people in here. It was like 200,000 people. How do you not stress test that ahead of time? Yeah. Like tech genius, Ron DeSantis has billions behind him. You don't even know how to roll out your own campaign. I mean, honestly, I at the time I was like, this is completely humiliating, or at least you would think it would be. But I don't know if Elon is actually pro like fascism, or if he's just using it as an excuse to bolster his income, to bolster Twitter, so on and so forth. But either way, he's not against promoting it. He's not against that whatsoever. And I think that is something that we are going to see more and more of, that there's certain billionaires like Elon who are completely okay with cozying up to politicians like Ron DeSantis, because their lives aren't going to change whatsoever by the rise of someone like Ron DeSantis. And so there's no real detriment on their end for backing a candidate like that.
I'm going to do some armchair psychology here.
Oh, all right.
And say, I think Elon has drank the Kool-Aid. I think Elon's head is so far up his own ass that he thinks that he is somehow, even though he openly supports I don't think he views himself as fascist. I don't think that he's like, I want to advance fascist authoritarian ideology, as much as like us on the left are like, oh yeah, no, the as you mentioned there, the tie-in of fascism and capital. I don't think Elon thinks that way. I think he's accidentally doing that. I think that Elon views himself as this warrior of the people, because his legions of Reddit Twitter users who subscribe to his thing that now pop up at the top of every single tweet in the comments and ruins Twitter for everyone else, like, they support him. And he just wants to, kind of similar to Trump, almost, like, he wants to ride that wave of support. He wants the people telling him he's awesome. He wants the people telling him he's a really cool guy. Because I think in billionaire circles, he gets laughed at. Like, because actually really dominantly rich old money people know that his entire net worth is an inflated Ponzi scheme. And if the price of the companies that he owns falls, he doesn't actually have anything. And so I think that like this entire time has been him just, he's going anti, like he hates the woke. He's like, I need something to hate. I need something that I can really easily dunk on because I'm not actually funny. And people will laugh at it. And wokeness is that thing. And who's doing that? Well, DeSantis is doing that. And I can back DeSantis. And if he becomes president, I get a buddy in the White House. I don't think he's actually, 3D, whatever, 4D chessing, fascism and authoritarianism combined with his billionaire status. I think he just wants to look cool because he's a loser. Like, I think that's genuinely, and hopefully I'm right about that. I don't want to be wrong about that, but like, I think that's the case here more so.
I mean,
Well,
I don't think he's a political mastermind. I don't think he's doing the stuff as like political maneuvering mastermind stuff. I think he is, just trying to capitalize on some of the worst things in politics that are going on, and he has been
capitalist. I mean, Elon's an opportunist.
Yeah.
He really is just about inflating any project that he's involved in. Tesla, SpaceX, Starlink, Neuralink, and now Twitter. I mean, he's interested in nothing beyond just trying to make sure that like his own personal brand and his companies are going up and that they're interesting, that people are engaging with it. And I think DeSantis is popular right now, and he wants to take some of that popularity and combine it with Twitter. And then I think that is basically probably where it ends for him. Or maybe I don't know. I might leave the armchair psychology to John. Maybe we need to give him his own segment here, armchair psychology with counterpoint politics. But yeah, I am also interested, like you are, as far as watching where this all goes between how Elon and politicians like DeSantis go forward in the future.
And I think that Elon is a good example of someone whose politics are largely shaped by the position that he finds himself in life. He's been shifting further and further right, and we're going to see that more and more as his entrenched interest as a billionaire become more aligned with folks on the right and folks on the far, far right.